There was a bit of news today that should have seen gold and silver prices fall, but instead they have arisen. Now I'm going to get into what that is in this video as we explore. That's right, gold and silver are up in spite of what happened today with a trade court, that has blocked most of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. Now, no matter what you may feel about this, there's no question that a lot of the courts have been acting to try to stop Trump's legal authority as President of the United States. Notwithstanding, they didn't challenge the previous president, and they also didn't challenge Trump when he did tariffs before. So it's kind of interesting to see how this is playing out, but let's get into what's going on here. Let's take a look at what the markets are doing right now, because everything is up in the precious metal space except for rhodium, and it's only down slightly. Before we get into the metals complex here, I want to remind you of channel sponsor Summit Metals, and they are one of the fastest growing bullion dealers out there, and they have competitive prices, but more importantly, they've got great service. So check them out and elevate your wealth with Summit Metals. So as we look at what's going on in the markets today, we can see that gold and silver have risen today. They didn't surge, but they did climb up at a healthy pace. Gold actually is up 0.87%, up $28.60 today, bringing the metal back above $3,300 an ounce. It is now sitting at $3,317. Silver is up 37 cents. That brings the metal up to $33.43. That's a 1.12% increase. That has since narrowed the gold to silver ratio below 100 yet again. It's sitting at 99.55. Platinum is also up $1, and palladium is up $13 right now. Rhodium is down $25. It moves in $25 increments typically these days, but nonetheless, there's where the metals are right now, and I think in a way they probably would have climbed higher than they did, considering this new court action. But we're going to get into the trade courts, and what they're talking about later. But let's first look at what oil is doing. Oil is actually down 1.3% to $60.91. We like to look at oil because it is somewhat of a related factors to what goes on in the precious metals space. It is really intriguing to see the dollar, though. It fell pretty dramatically today, down over 1%. It is to 99.36. That's a big drop for the dollar. And so to see gold and silver rise, really, they probably should have risen even more than that. So spot gold has risen, and 3-month gold futures in New York have also recovered up 1.1%. And it fell after the U.S. Court of International Trade deemed many of Trump's tariffs to be illegal on Wednesday, drawing investors toward risk-on assets and away from the safe haven metal. While the Trump administration filed a notice to appeal the ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court may ultimately have the final say. In addition, strong tech earnings from NVIDIA after the bell on Wednesday saw an acceleration of risk appetite returning to Wall Street, which piled on the bearish headwinds for gold. The news out of the U.S. could see some significant downside for gold in the sessions ahead as haven trades are pulled, according to Nick Tweedale, a chief market analyst at AT Global Markets in Sydney. The longer-term trend is still in place, so we'll find some bargain hunters at some point in the day. But that proved to be the case with gold rebounding from a one-week low on Thursday's open. The rally was aided by new U.S. data that showed an easing labor market. That's right, the weekly jobless claims rising by more than expected. So that is the bad economic news that we're seeing here. Gold is rallying on the jump in weekly initial jobless claims, which could be a harbinger for a weakening labor market, which could get the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates more quickly, according to Tai Wong, an independent metals trader. Market focus is now on the U.S. personal consumption expenditure data, which will be due out on Friday. It will be closely analyzed for signals on future monetary policy. And I think then we'll look and see what the Fed Watch tool will tell us about what they're going to be doing in June. If we do see a rate cut in June, watch out. I think gold and silver will both rise even quicker and more than they are right now. Equally impressive is gold's sharp recovery that we saw overnight, with the market deciding that Trump will ultimately prevail against the court's ruling, according to Wong. And so that is really the case, and even Reuters is saying that as well. They think that they're going to, this U.S. trade court ruling that blocked most of Trump's tariffs and found he had overstepped his authority triggered some relief on the financial markets while adding to the uncertainties weighing on the global economy. His administration immediately said it will appeal, and analysts said investors will remain cautious as the White House explores its legal avenues. And so that is something. And they also quote Wong here saying that that Trump will ultimately prevail. Now, that's that one opinion, but nonetheless, I do feel that there is some standing there. But we'll see how it goes through the courts. Because obviously, if the negotiations are going on and many of these nations feel that some of the courts are going to overturn these tariffs, well, that's going to be bad for negotiations. But it really depends on how it plays out. Intriguing indeed to see how that's playing. So, in light of rising uncertainty surrounding U.S. institutional credibility, analysts at Goldman Sachs have urged investors to buy more gold as a long-term hedge. And I would agree with that, although I will say that gold, as well as silver, are stores of value over the long course of time, and certainly is something to, before you get into be buying too much, make sure you have a full understanding of the price direction they're going to go. They will preserve your wealth over the long course of time, but the summer isn't here yet. The summer doldrums very well could come into play here that we have to take into account and consider. And so, who knows what that's going to mean for silver and gold. And we have to be able to weather the storm of those falling prices after you make a purchase. I call that Salivate's Law. Others call it Murphy's Law. But I typically buy when the prices are high and then they fall. I've had a stream of good luck in recent months, but the last purchases I made were certainly at a high. But nonetheless, following the recent failure of U.S. bonds to protect against equity downside and the rapid rise of U.S. borrowing costs, investors seek protection for equity bond portfolios, the bank's analyst wrote in a note on Wednesday. During any 12-month period when real returns were negative for both stocks and bonds, either oil or gold have delivered positive real returns. In their note, the analysts recommended a higher than usual allocation to bullion, given the potential risk of a sustained sell-off in both the U.S. bonds and equities, should investors lose faith in American assets and the institutions backing them. As the bullion market is small relative to other major asset classes, and silver being even smaller than that, even a small diversification step out of U.S. fixed income or risk assets could cause the next giant leap for gold prices, according to the analyst. And gold has risen by more than a quarter. That's about 26% amid the market chaos unleashed by Trump's aggressive trade policy. And we saw it reach about $3,500 an ounce in April. Will we get there again? It is quite possible. But I think a lot of that is going to depend on what's going to be happening here with the courts and with trade and deals. Obviously, the courts could sabotage any kind of trade deals. They said, well, we're going to wait this out, see what the courts do before we do any negotiation, and that's going to cause more uncertainty. And if Trump loses these court cases and he complies with the courts and stops the tariffs, and the tariffs are stopped, then it's going to be a matter of the Congress allocating, if they can do it, if they would do it, to give him broad powers to be able to do that. But again, he was not challenged before on this. So we'll see how this plays out. Now, what I like to do here is bring you the latest news and analysis on the world of precious metals and what happens. So I hope you will consider subscribing to the channel. I posted 2 videos today, very important ones, that flew under the radar, completely flew under the radar. One of my worst performing videos of the year, but I think probably some of the better videos that I've done. So I hope you will check those out. I'm going to link to both of them here at the end screen of this video. But nonetheless, gold and silver, indeed, having a good day. And I think, in a sense, silver especially, we're going to keep an eye on it because it's above $33 an ounce. And as I have said before, even if it remains stagnant in that area for any given amount of time, that is a victory because, we have been seeing silver, trade and in the last decade way down, and I tell you what, I remember not long ago, silver was trading at half of what it's trading right now. So silver really is doing good. It's got to stay above this, and we can't necessarily compare it to gold at this point in time. So there you have it. Now let me know what your thoughts are about this video, and what do you think about these libertads here. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch this video, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.